Hello and welcome. In this series, we're going to be going over how to set up assets to be used in Speedtree using Cinema 4D, and then we're also going to go over how we're going to actually model the foliage and plants inside of Speedtree as well. In this specific video, however, we're just going to be going over how to actually set up the geometry so that we can import it inside of Speedtree, and then in that next video, we'll be going over how we can actually do the modeling and such. So let's go ahead and jump on in here. So the first thing we want to do, I'm going to say we're going to be using Megascans again for this. We're just going to be using the free scan. So if I go scroll on down here, we're going to be using this fern. Specifically, we're going to be making a fern in this video. So we're going to be using this asset, and then if you guys want to follow along, you can go ahead and download this and use it as well. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop in a plane, and then we're going to create a material. So we're just going to create a regular material, not like Redshift or anything like that. If you've seen some of my other videos, I use Redshift quite a bit. We're just going to be using straight up regular Cinema 4D material. So we're going to just disable actually the reflectance. We want the color. So if I go ahead and open this up, so one thing that you're going to have to do to actually prep this, you are going to need something like Photoshop, or you can do it in After Effects as well, or probably some other program. I don't know. I used After Effects, and I know you can do it in Photoshop, but you need to actually take the scans here. So this is my folder that has the scans in it. You will have everything except for this file right here. So you want to take the albedo right here, and then you want to set the opacity as the alpha channel in the albedo, because if you just try and use this straight up albedo, it's not actually going to work in Speedtree. You're not going to actually be able to see your fern textures as the opacity map, with the opacity map applied, I should say. But we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to use this opacity map because it's going to make it easier for me to see. So let's go ahead and drop this onto our plane right here. So I'm actually going to go to the top view, and then I'm going to set my display to be charge shading with lines. And then we also want to enable our wireframe so we can see that. Now the reason I do that is because we want to set up our ferns and our plane to have enough geometry going up and down the plant here. So let's go ahead and set that up. So I'm going to keep the height and width the same. The width segments, I'm going to set these to 5, see what that gives us off the start. So definitely not enough for what we're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe up this to something like 8 and 8. We'll see what that gives us. So maybe a little bit more in what the height, yeah. So I'll go with that in the height. It's looking like we got a pretty decent amount. I don't know how well you can see it, but got a pretty decent amount of geometry going in the vertical direction of this specific fern, which is what we're going to be using to start off with here. And then for the sides as well, we got a couple. I may add, let's go up to 10 on that as well, just to have a little bit more geometry there for us. So let's go ahead. We're going to go and actually make this. We're actually going to duplicate this first, and then I'm just going to disable this. Oops. Disable this so we can use it later if we ever need to. And then I'm going to make this plane editable. So we're going to go up to, I believe it's the mesh, and we want the, where is it at? It's we're going to be cutting in the knife tool. Why am I, oh yeah, we need to go into our point mode here. So let's go ahead and grab our knife tool. Where was that? I just saw it. I'm blind. I guess it's kind of the line. Is it the line cut? Whoops. Yeah, it's line cut. So grab the line cut. Forget the names of them. They're different in a bunch of different applications. So what we're going to be doing here is we're going to actually just kind of cut out our our geometry here. So just click on your lines there, and we're going to just kind of cut along our asset here. I'm gonna go ahead and do something like that. So we want to have it tight around the asset, but we also want to have it not, you know, go over our asset either. I'm gonna cut one there, and I'm gonna actually cut to that, and then I'm going to hit escape just to exit out of that, because I want to create a point there, but I don't want to actually I actually don't want to do that. I don't want to have our asset be cut off, and I don't want to include part of this fern right here as well. So I just want to go from that point and just make it a nice triangle right there. And I'm going to exit out of that and keep cutting around. Just kind of keep it close on the object, but not something that's too bad or too close that it's going to cut it. And let's actually cut back, undo all that. Wasn't liking how I was at. I don't want to stretch the UVs, so we'll just keep going around here. We can just cut to that one, and then we want to cut like there. Whoops. Cut to onto the line, and we'll cut there as well. And then we want to escape out of that, and then we want to start back up down here, and we'll just keep going along. So now that I've kind of cut out this plant here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to select all of these faces. We're going to go into our face selection mode. So we're going to select all of our faces here and actually just kind of select the whole thing, and then we'll cut out what we don't need later. Make sure we're not missing these. You can hold shift and select more if you miss them, and then control and just click on the ones that you don't want. I'm going to keep those just for now. So now if we go up to our mesh, and then it should be in commands, and then we can do the split right here. And that's just going to create, it's going to take all of the faces that we have, and it's going to split them from the plane that we have there. So now if I disable this, and whoops, and I go and oops, our plane's still selected. I go to our mesh, our selection, and we invert that. Just hit delete. Now you can see that we just have our geometry right along how we want it. So we're going to actually add another loop right in the middle, because we want to have kind of along the middle just a loop, so we can kind of bend it. Actually, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead, go back up to, try the loop cut, see if that works. Should get us most of it. So I'm just going to go kind of along the center line right here and go like that. And then if we go back to our line cut, I can just drag that on down and complete the loop for us. So part of the reason we want to do that is because we don't want to be able to go flat with our object like this and not really be able to see it. We want to actually give it a little bit of a bend, and we're going to be able to bend it along the spine here. So it'd be, let's see if I can maneuver this and explain it. Actually, let's just jump into the next part, and I'll explain here. So we're going to use a deformer here. We're going to use the, where is it at? The FFD. So we want to use this just to make it easier. And actually, before we do that, I'm just going to disable that for right now, make it so I can't see it. we want to center align our pivot to this object, because if you look, our object is not where it's supposed to be. So let's go ahead and go up to make sure that you have this axis and edit enabled. We want to go to, I believe it's in the commands, maybe not. I haven't done this in a while. I don't do this very often, I should say. We want to center align our axis. There we go. So in our mesh, we go up to axis center and then center to the object. And then that'll get us pretty close. Then I'm just going to move this down to, let's go ahead and just put it at the base of our stem right there. So now if I disable that, and then I go back to our plane right here and set our coordinates back to 0, 0. So it's in the origin, which is where we want it to be. So let's go ahead and re-enable our FFD, get a child of our plane here. And you can see as long as we have our FFD selected, we can go into our point mode, and let's just go ahead and rectangle select. If I just drag these down, you're going to see that it is actually changing the way our geometry looks. So we want to just make sure that this is aligned with our object. So it's looking pretty good. So the way that we're going to be able to do this in Speedtree, if I select these points, we're going to be able to bend it kind of in this direction, sort of like this, but we can't actually bend it along like this axis. So that's the reason that we are using this. So let's go ahead and set up this a little bit better. Go over to the object and let's set our grid points maybe to something like, let's try 5s and see what that gives us. Not enough, because we want our, and let's actually change, which one is it? That doesn't matter so much. It's this one. So we want to set this just outside our geometry so that we can bend this exactly how we want it. And maybe let's set this, actually no, we should be good with just 2 points here. So let's go ahead and we're gonna jump to our, actually let's just do it in this view. I'm just gonna select these points so we have all of the points on this side selected, and then shift select all the points on this side as well. And then I'm going to just, actually let's just bring it down. See how that looks. I'm gonna bring it down a pretty decent amount, and then I'm going to just deselect these center points and then just bring the edges down a lot. Now it looks pretty heavily edited here. If I just make it so we can't see that, it's gonna look really kind of bent in this, but as we actually look at it in Speedtree, it's going to be not nearly as noticeable and as bent as it looks right here. So we'll try that for now. We're just gonna go ahead and right click, and we're gonna make it a editable. There we go, current state to object. And actually you did that wrong. You have to select both the plane and the FFD, and then current state to object. And then now if I disable both of these, look at our plane right here, get rid of the null, and it's just our object bent nicely how we had it right there. So I'm going to hold that for now. I'm just going to name this fern _1, and then I'm going to make it so I can't see it. And then let's go back to maybe this plane. Nope, not the one we wanted. Let's go back to our original and let's make another copy of it. Oops. Make another copy. Just disable our first one. Let's go ahead and set this up so that we can cut out this second fern as well, this one right here. So you're gonna just do this for every single one. I'm just gonna do 2 just for the video's sake, but let's go ahead and kind of set this up how we want it. And it's looking like that amount of geometry is looking pretty decent again. So let's go ahead and just make that editable. And then we'll jump back to our line cut and just start cutting out our object right here. Again, just trying to keep it close, but not horribly, you know, overlapping anything and cutting away from our actual texture here. I'm actually going to escape and I'm going to undo that last one just so I can, oh darn, okay, it's going to make me go all the way back. It's okay. Not the end of the world here. Just cut along. I don't want to cut or bring like this portion in, so I can just zoom in here, get something nice in between. I don't want to have any extra, and we can make this one a quad without too much trouble there. And we'll just do that for now. And now if I go and select our faces, just select them all right here, we can cut out our object. Let's go ahead and go back up to mesh, and where was it again? It was the split. There we are. Split, and then we want to select and invert our selection. Where was it at? There we go. And then just delete the parts that we don't need. So now we have our plane here again, and this will be fern 2, and I'm gonna make it viewable. So that looks pretty decent. Let's go ahead and just add another FFD in here. And actually, before we do that, again, I forgot to center our axis. Back into object mode, enable our pivot, edit, and then we go to axis center, center object 2, and then let's just set this. We're gonna set this one, actually, we're just gonna set this at the bottom this time because we got a little bit hanging over. I'm not sure how that's gonna affect where it's at in Speedtree. So let's go ahead and just leave it like that. And then let's bring our FFD as a child of our fern. And then make it viewable again. Size it on up. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then Z. It's looking pretty good. And then again, I'm going to set this to just 5. 5 seemed to work pretty decently last time. So let's go ahead and just leave it at that. And I'm just going to, for just simplicity's sake, so it's not so giant, bring that down a little bit as well. Let's go ahead and select our points again. Select these as well. And just drag them on down. And then get rid of these middle ones and drag that down as well. Now we want to leave this project either open or save this project as well so that we can come back and change the bend amounts as we see fit. Make sure I do this correctly. I wonder if it's current state to object. Did that work? It did. Okay. So we're all set up and ready to go here. So again, let's go ahead and make sure that these are back to center aligned with their axes. Just going to drag that on down and line it up the best we can. It's looking pretty good. And then again, I'm going to make this coordinates be 0, 0, 0, just so that it is along in our in our world origin, and disable all that. So now if I look back at this one, I need to actually change its world origin, or its origin as well. So let's make sure it lines up. It's looking pretty good. Turn off our axis edit, and there we go. So now all we have to do is just export these. So I'm just going to export this first fern. So we'll go up to File, and then Export Selected Object. Now you can either use an OBJ or an FBX. So let's go ahead and use FBX. And then I'm going to just drop this in this folder, and we'll set it to fern 2, then OK. And then we'll enable fern 1. And then we'll just click Export Selected Object again. And where'd the FBX go? There we go. And fern 1. So now we have all of the geometry set up and bent the way that we want. That way we can edit it further inside Speedtree and set up our plants. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check out the next part so that we can go over how we are actually going to procedurally create all of our plants and just be able to, click once and create different variations of the plant as we see fit. So again, thank you guys for watching. I got a bunch more tutorials, not just on this, but on Redshift and other Cinema 4D tips. So if that's something that interests you guys, make sure you guys check that out, as well as subscribe for any future videos that I have coming. So thank you guys for watching, and have a good night.